In the timeline of the electoral process, where we have concluded with the belt that indicates those who are interested, that belt has been concluded. So all the forms have been collected and submitted. However, we are entering a new phase, which is the phase of then choosing candidates from among those who have submitted their applications for the various offices. And because of the complications that have emerged in course of doing it, you've seen political parties continue to shift the dates because in the midstream, I would say midstream, many people realized that some of the assumptions that had been made towards the process had been altered. It will answer some of the questions people are asking. Why is it that so many people are going around engaging traditional rulers and supposed delegates and other people are not? Why is it that some people resigned and some did not? Why is it, so many things. One of the things I found out in our political space is that a lot is based on assumptions. A lot of people do not, maybe they don't. I think part of why I'm running is because I'm trying to bring some sense of social order to our polity. Let's not run away with the belief that our country has totally collapsed, that it is no longer a country of laws or a country of rules, that there is no more morality, there's no more order. In other words, everything works. Because this is at the heart of what it is that you see on display. People may decide that this is something that he or she fancies, and then goes about telling the rest of the people that that is it. And the media then encourages, because those people are the only people whose voices are heard, then the media just propagates. Many people were shocked, for instance, to hear that the CBN governor took the country to court. And they said, is there no CBN board? In a sane country, I mean, truly speaking, before you can, in fact, once you take your employer to court, you would have lost even this job itself, I mean, normally. But the narrative here will not be about the process. It will be about who is from which part of the country, or, his persecution. Nobody looks at the law. The country is a country almost becoming, it speaks to how, whether his people, the people of the country, really believe that there is a law. We are now at a situation, a position where the entire country is some sort of quagmire over the fact that 469 legislators elected by Nigerians, hopefully, can admit to the country that they made a mistake in passing a law that excluded themselves. I mean, it's only in Nigeria that the media will just be laughing, really find this very funny. I mean, as nauseating as, in fact, I have not seen anything nauseating in Nigeria that anybody really says to fiawa. I've not, in Igbo language, you will say nothing is sacred, nothing, we've obliterated all the edges, that nothing makes any more meaning. So it bleeds my heart when I see a country like that. And that is why when people ask me, I say, well, I'm trying to stick to the rules. I will not go canvassing to traditional rulers over a party affair. I will not go and visit delegates who I don't know whether they are delegates yet, because we just concluded the delegate election yesterday. In fact, the results can only be filed today. So if you've been around, what exactly were you doing? Or what were you trying to do? Heat up the polity? Or isn't there some sort of semblance of order in the social parameters of engagement? But I'm only worried that it seems lost on the rest of us. That's the part that worries me. The fact that we can carry on as politicians and people whom you have written off as people who are the problem of Nigeria. The fact that Nigerians can regard us as their problem, but then accommodate these nuances as if these idiosyncrasies are things that are normal. They've normalized the abnormalities of our condition. That hurts. Really, really, really hurts. And that's actually at the base of my engagement in this political process. I do not think I'm the best person in the world to become your president. I do not even think that I have all of the abilities or the things that you may fancy, because across the country, there are nearly 300 plus ethnic tribes. People speaking different languages with different, and from their breed, because we have different breeding, we also have different creeding. So both our creed and breed are different. And so most times you find that people do not aspire to the same things. So all this my grammar may be interpreted in some quarters as one of the deceptive things that they use. There's a cynicism around who we have become. So I may not necessarily appeal to everyone. So I don't want to assume that I'm the best medicine for probably our ailments. However, I'm convinced that my training as a lawyer and as a politician now, having done this for nearly 30 years, convinces me that we must offer to Nigerians a wide range of people to choose from, especially the leadership of our political parties, so that we are not bereft of different kinds to choose from. I always tell people that the reason I've remained the kind of person I've remained is so that in case we are looking for this type, then we can use it. But if you want to continue recruiting robbers and brothers, those ones are available. So you can also, Nigerians have the option. There's no, we don't think the space should be restricted to only those who have been able to loot as much as they possibly can, establish themselves as much as they possibly can, take control of the space as much as they possibly can. Yes, that space is available. Many people should aspire to take hold of the Nigerian system, wriggle it of all they can get out of it, pocket it, and establish themselves and their families and their kingdom or kindred across the world. You are free to do that. Well, I'm only saying, let us also offer you the option of order, social cohesion, national unity, a platform for young people to aspire, to think that there is actually some sort of working tomorrow. Nobody has all the solutions to Nigeria's problems, and there are a myriad of them because they cut across, different facets. But if you look at how societies are organized, the biggest weakness in the Nigerian organization is how citizen responds to social order and therefore economic order, because all of them follow in sequence. For instance, our societies are not organized according to what is produced in an area. Most countries are organized that this is a harbor town, so this thing works because this is a harbor town. This is an area of iron ore, so steel comes from this place. So you can have like now that Russia is bombing Donetsk region. Everybody knows that the Avostal steel plant is because it's situated in the Mariupol area because it is relative to its export. That's how countries are organized. Nigeria's country, if you go to America, you say Detroit is an auto city, and then LA is of Silicon Valley. This is what people are organized according to what they do, and that's what societies are organized in such a way that there will be an area where people work, and then there are some places where they live, some sort of order. That is not available to us. You can't ask anybody what they do in Abuja. There is nothing going on here if there is no government. So everybody who is here is somewhat dependent. If you go to Lagos, it's a miasma of all kinds of engagements. There's no, I can't think of what people go to, let's say, Kaurana Moda to do. What would that city develop around? what the largest part of Nigeria is the northeast, with 120 local governments and about 36% of the entire landmass of Nigeria. And there is nothing that they are known for. I mean, that shows you how a country has been organized. It's just generally disorganized. So, if people are not thinking in those terms, what are they thinking in terms of? That's why you can have 1,016 abandoned industries in Nigeria, and you have 200 million people out of job. I mean, how does that work? From Alaja Steel Mill to Just Steel Rolling Mill to Katsina Mill to you name it, in Jebab, Igbo Paper Mill, in everywhere. Anything that is buildable, Nigeria has built it, but they can't work. Nobody employs anybody, and everybody's roaming the streets, continuously agitated that there is and then we are going to do, all of us are going to wait for China to produce and then ship to us, dash us airports, dash us railway, and they will borrow as much as anything they tell us. They bring their people, they come work, we are fine, we sit in the coaches, and all we need to do is then get the money. Get the money, do what with it? Nothing. You just transfer it to dollars, so dollar goes from 100 to 200, 300. As many people as put 400 and 600, and there's nothing to do. The country is just a roller coaster of, sometimes you just sit down and say, is this for real? Can people really live like this? Is there no direction? On Sunday, we wake up, we go to church, we pray to God to give us more money so that we can do more of those things. You go to this thing, and anybody who is a good man is the person who donates money. The only person who is a good man and show me love, I need to get now that shit. So this is the way we have defined our social construct. And I'm wondering if truly we believe that this is how life should be and end. And that's, the social order has been eroded. The public schools are comatose because the teachers who teach there don't believe they owe the country any responsibility. So those who can afford it migrate their children to private schools, and then the private schools increase prices so that everybody is bitter looking for the money to pay the private schools, and everybody is, we want to be British standard. Now this will continue. Those who are left behind will just simply acquire AK-47s and start shooting the rest of the people. And this is a circle, because when we were elected in 1999, we came with a conservative approach to government. And 2 years into it, many of us assessed it and said this can't work. And that was our prognosis for us to start agitating for a progressive platform. In our agitation for a progressive platform, we decided to join President Muhammad Buhari in 2002 so that he could provide leadership for the progressive platform. He did. Nigerians rejected them 3 times. They didn't want a progressive platform, or they didn't even understand what the difference was. But the difference is becoming stark, because in Zamfara, 8 years they didn't employ teachers, they didn't build schools. It's so in Sokoto. Before you could say Jack Robinson, those 16 years, the boys have now, if you are 4 years old at that time, but now you're 20-year-old, what are you going to do without any education? You have to take the guns and just start shooting those who have it. It's as simple as that. This is not rocket science. This is social science, behavioral engagement. And if you're not interested in understanding this, what are you doing? What is this whole idea about? If you want to be a Rockefeller, you can go and invent something and make some money. But to continuously think that the Nigerian space has nothing to do with social order or engagement, but the ability for you to extract from it as much as you can for the benefit of where. So it is under this narrative, or with its narrative as guidance, because I've been doing this for almost how many years now, trying to preach it. And as soon as we crossed over and created a progressive platform by 2013, we then said that it was important to unite all the progressives around the country. Some of us were Congress for Progressive Change, some were Action Congress, some were, all progressive grand, all type of progressives were milling around the country saying different things. And when we got the opportunity to bring them together, I was offered at that time to be secretary of this merger committee. And I decided that the best thing would be to provide, some sort of congressional engagement for everybody to participate. And that's why it became an all progressives Congress. So whether you were liberal, whether you were any shade of progressive that you were, you could find accommodation here. And that's what had provided this platform that made it broad enough for all of us to win the election in 2015. Going forward, with this is for instance, this administration is the first time anybody has tried to enforce the universality in how people are paid from the civil service. The IPs thing is not a phenomenon, it's a known thing, but I know that around the country we've had to fight it for the past 7 years. It's the same thing with bringing everybody into some sort of banking order with the BVN. Everybody is fighting it. I mean, people need to escape it. They are creating microfinance. They want to do soft bank. They want to do online banking. They want to do. In fact, Nigerians have even migrated out of it completely because Nigeria is actually the biggest country outside the Western countries who are operating on the Bitcoin arena because they want to escape these measures that have been put in place. So the fight is on. This is not a joke. I mean, the parallels here with any other place can't find. But Nigeria is so unique that you may need to understand even some of these things I'm saying. If I weren't talking to journalists, I probably won't be saying them because it does not make sense to a lot of people. I mean, this is just Oyibo speaking. I mean, they don't see. If I weren't in this small enclosure, which is why I said it's an engagement. I don't want to talk to those who don't even have a clue what the hell I'm talking about. So I'm only pointing them out because I think I'm in an environment where they will even know this. If I say TSA, what does a single treasury account? Why would the federal government be running a treasury account in the first place? Why would we take these loans and try to do? If a country has 25,000 kilometers of road and then they have 16,000 kilometers, 6,000 kilometers of railway, why are we not able to produce wagons? Why is no university in Nigeria? Why no technical college in Nigeria doing wagon technology or somebody, even Yabatek, just alone doing, let's give third form research finding only for the repair of carts and wagons. I mean, the country needs to just rethink, reboot. Truly speaking, you just need to manual, switch off this and reboot the system so the system can just something like, they can present you with Windows 84, all these things, so you can choose the one you can. The apps, right now, the thing is not getting into my head. But the problem I have is maybe Nigerians are not even in a position to understand what the challenge is. And therefore, they're going to be trying to choose based on the same things. I'm a macho man, I own this, I am a rich man. I mean, the same way we were convinced in the early 90s that, yes, Abiola will give everybody his money. I mean, many people really voted SDP in those years, believing, truly speaking, that this money that he had made from Radio Labs Nigeria Limited, which the military were using to take money out of international ITT and so on, that it will some way find its own way back to them. I mean, that's the kind of thing Nigerians think about, that the person who has the most money will be the one who will give them the most money. I mean, that does not follow. This is just not economic, because the only way a rich man is rich is because he has sacked you. He can't be rich because he dashed it to you. I mean, so whatever he's going to give you. So the reasoning behind this big man syndrome is a very convoluted reasoning pattern. But then that's expected from people who may not necessarily have all of the facts. So I thought it might be a good thing that we have arrived at some point in the political journey where we now know that actually whether you're statutory, non-statutory, any type of delegate, there's no accommodation, because we can't seem to make up our mind whether somebody was caught in his attempt to chart a new course or that truly there was a mistake, and we don't know what that implies, and INEC is not agreeing to shift the date. So here we are, barely a week to announcing who will fly the flag of APC. So I just said maybe I should just interact with you, let you know what APC is about, why it is that we came to power, why it is that we are the first government to set up a humanitarian affairs ministry, so that we can draw in all who are below the social radar and drag them into the working net. And then what should we do to deepen that? If indeed this is the focus of government, how do we then make that focus work for the rest of us? Because actually it's not enough to drag poor people into government. It is then to energize them to be able to be useful to the system. Nigeria's population remains a population until you energize it into manpower, because the Israelis have less than 6 million people, surrounded by nearly 18 million people. Yet, Israelis make $18 billion a year, and the rest of them make $6 billion a year. So you see, it's not about numbers, it's about manpower. So who is best suited to talk about this, get it done, have the empathy, because without empathy, really, you can't seem, if you don't know what people are, if you don't know where the thing is, you can't empathize. I mean, many people are way beyond where they can discuss what we're discussing. But I think we have an opportunity, and while we are praying, we're going to ask you to work with us, see if you can present to the leadership of Nigeria that there is possibly somebody who is willing, even if I'm not as able as you may want, but I'm just willing to offer myself to do this. It's going to be a very, very, very difficult job. And but many of us are encouraged as Christians, because we've noted that the whole reason there is Christianity is because Christ accepted at some point that even though he doesn't like this business, but if it's the Father's will, let the will be done. Thank you, morning.
I think he deserves another round of applause. In his approach and analysis of the situation.
At the time when there was a marked divide between capitalist and socialist ideologies in the world, its foundation was predicated on providing university education to everybody. At the time ASU was instituted, federal government was the only owner of universities, only. Much later, they agitated, and by 1992 arrived at what was called the Education Tax Fund, which was supposed to then cure the problems of engaging continuously in developing universities and making sure that teachers' pay remained the same. At the time ASU was set up, there were less than 32,000 Nigerian students in universities. There were less than 12 universities. Today, there are 1.2 million people seeking, 1.5 million people seeking admission every year. There are now 2.2 million Nigerians in university. When people tell you of the days when they used to eat with 50 kobo, there were less than 100,000 of them. Today, the federal government alone has, or at least owns, nearly 50 universities across the 36 states. Today also, nearly 40 state universities now exist. State universities. In some states, there are 2 state universities. Or even 3. Today, ASU makes a demand for needs assessment. When needs assessment was first conceived, it was in relation to the old universities, Ibadan, Nsukka, IABU, in order to upgrade them and to look at how to maintain their facilities. But they are also now 2nd generation, 3rd generation, 4th generation universities. All of them now needs assessment. So if you like, provide 100 billion, they would now share it into 500, 300. Then it takes like another 2 years for there to now be a procurement process, for that procurement process to now get to the point where it is awarded, for the contractor to now come back, and then he will tell you, oh, at the time the needs assessment was done 2 years ago, the cost of doing the project would have been 500 million. Now we require 3.4 billion to achieve the same thing after procurement had been done. So you start a fresh needs assessment process. So ASU is right. When people hear me, and ASU is irritated when they hear me say, yes, I'm with them. Because when they say, you are with us, so what is the problem? I say, I understand what you're asking. I only disagree with ASU that you have to be on strike to understand this simple logic that I've done now. This thing is very clear for everybody to understand. And because the value or level of intelligence among our people has diminished quite a bit, today you hear ASU intellectuals abusing minister. He's a fool, he should go and rest. We're talking like street people now. I can't descend to that level, and I won't try to. It pains me when I hear ASU at professors speak gutter language. And, what can I do if the salt has lost its taste? Of what use can it be? So I can't engage at that level. I can't be gutter. But the truth is that intellectually, what they are saying is correct. But will it be solved by strikes? No. It is by engaging systems. And then I will answer what I will do differently, because I proffered a different paradigm on this. I've said it is better for us to then recalibrate the system. What do I mean? Some of these proposals are still with the president, so I'm not sure whether I should discuss them here. I'm not, because you can do damage to something that you want to help by the way you speak about it. So there are proposals before our president. They are fleshing out how it can work to need the acceptance of parties in the system. But its essence speaks to funding the Nigerian child to be able to fund the system. I mean, it may be a convoluted way of doing the same thing, but then you extract value if you go through the other way. I mean, an Igbo man will be reasoning the same thing differently. I mean, I want to buy the market because I know that the objective is to train my children. So if that is to produce manpower in Nigeria, why don't I pay for the manpower produced instead of building so that I pay you, you go and build the building. I mean, so that you don't get caught up with the 2007 Procurement Act, because a university cannot procure because it must follow the university. So if I free the university and make him, instead of running it with a council, and I run it with a board of trustees, the way private universities are run, and then the trusteeship allows them to escape the procurement process, so that if I give children a bursary, the children can use the bursary to pay for their school fees, so that the university can then use that money to then. So there's no point then on burdening a university with 25 professors that they don't need, so that they can collect money from the federal government. I'm dealing with a case in Ado Ekiti where EFCC, ICPC are, well, I just handed it over to them since I resigned, but the names of lecturers were used to collect pension for years. So because we now introduced IPs into the system, the money was paid to those people directly. So the university is spending a lot of money chasing them to bring money. So, sorry, the way Nigeria works, you pity Nigeria. You just pity it, because these are intellectuals. And they're behaving like criminals on the floor. So really, if you see what I've seen, you will not be reacting like this. So I often say they don't need to be on strike. I don't want to start indicting people. But there is a reason why government has insisted that we pay people with IPs. And like I said, if government has engaged you and you met with our president and he said, oh, you have UTAS, yeah, go and develop it, let us see. You go and develop it, that is a nice application. That's not the same thing that have developed it, I must force you to use it. Federal government has contracted IPs for almost a 10-year contract. They are not about to pay penalties and dissolve this just to please you. It is better to use the one that we have and manage the system until we get to the point where you're becoming independent enough to use your own. Now, whether UTESA is in a position to cure the problem of lecturers killing themselves, because if you see a lecturer leaving Medugri to go to teach in Katsina, we've lost 4 professors on that road, just trying to meet this small extra money of collecting from going to 4 places. I'm not talking about the private universities, because there are things I will say, and then again, ASU will just get angry, because if you have nearly 2.2 million students in the universities, and you have 70,000 lecturers. When I was at TED Fund, I looked at the returns on our seminar and conferences. I received less than 7,000 out of less than 10% of the money we disbursed. The newspapers carried it one time that they went to a conference in Dubai, and some people accused them that they were not going to the conferences or attending the seminars. But I saw that it was retracted at some point. But part of it is, I don't know how you got the reporting, but part of it is actually on the bank. But this is something that Nigerians need to realize, that is a very worrying situation. If the quality of academics decrease or is not at par, we are in trouble. And this is becoming the case. So ASU is right. The universities and our schools need retooling, upgrading, and all the help they can. Whether this is the approach, it's not really, because if you've done something repeatedly and you're getting the same results and you're insisting on it, something is wrong with your quotient. Everybody knows that you can't keep repeating the same thing and expecting a different result. So what we should be talking about is not continuously, this is almost like the 100th strike. I mean, not just about this government. We were in strike when I was in university in 1988. I graduated in 1988. And as at that time, we were already in strike. So I know that it smacks of intellectual deficiency to continue doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So I know that we have a different paradigm around it, and I've already profiled that. But in a better way, we formatted that for government to apply. And if some of it still remains unresolved when I become president, I will also explain to Nigerians what we need to do. We have a scheme of bursary. We have, once you pass JAMB, what we can use your national identity number to do, because if you look at the 2007 Act, or 2006 Act, when we passed NIMC and said we will not allow transactions to occur, because people are still wondering how come I came to the Ministry of Education and insisted that JAMB must take NIN before they do so. I said, I'm only obeying the law. These laws have been in place. And people said it couldn't be done, but in 2019 it didn't go very well. But Professor Loyode stayed at it. In fact, I resumed work at NIMC to ensure that we could actually, for the first time, because if you had NIMC in order, we would lose Bayelsa State, because then the certificates would have been consistent with a particular number. Anyway, please, Nigerians need to understand that they have a country to run, and I just want you to understand that we are working with ASU. The problems are solvable. We need different paradigms and different thought processes around the same problems. So problems are there for human beings to solve them, but to continue to beat the world won't take it much. So let me not dwell too much on that, because he mentioned that he's worried that that I sound more experienced than people think. And I said, okay, well, yeah, when you say 30 years, in 1992 when I first came to run, I came to run as NRC, came to run for Federal House. But you know, when that time I was actually not experienced. That's when I wasn't experienced, in 1992, because I returned from Lagos, a young lawyer, because my boss, Aminu Dahiru, who was running for governor in Gongola State then, had just died in 1991. So I returned without guidance and read that the age limit is 25. So I actually returned only to find out that my father was running, that in those days they didn't have GSM. My father was already running in SDP. We were in house. And I couldn't lie to my father that I was 25, because you see, technically, I was 25 in 1992. But because the elections were taking place around May, and my birthday would be in August, so I was still 4 months shy of applying. So I was disqualified even with my money. So I learned the hard way that these things you have to. So that was 1992. By 1996, something happened actually in the first month of 1996. I lost my partner, one of my partners. And when he died in that plane crash, it didn't take until November 1996, because my partner, my law firm is called Ayodeji Emeka Ibrahim & Co. Ibrahim Abacha was my partner. And when we left university in 1988 and teamed up in the firm of Aminu Dahiru and became our own partners. So that's how we started. But when we lost him in January, we lost some appetite for what was going on. So it was till towards the end of 1996 when they reopened the political space. UNCP was the party I joined, and I ran and I won Federal House again, that 1997 engagement. But we were not sworn in because they were preparing us. There was a plan to pass 199. The constitution that created this 6 geopolitical zone was the Ekwueme Constituent Assembly of 1995. So they were going to promulgate it into law, on which we ran in 1998, and then swear in who will be president in October alongside us. But somehow, around June 8, 1998, the head of state then died. So we were forced to go and start afresh again. So you see, this experience, I've suffered very, very much. So we started, and I joined PDP, and I came to the House of Reps in 1999. I was probably still seen as very young, but we started canvassing this idea. I was that same member that you heard was chairman House Committee, Works, Housing, and people remember the fights in the House to create fiscal fights in those days. When I walked ministers out, I mean, Chief Aneni was the biggest minister at the time, and he was Minister of Works, and people felt I was petulant. In fact, people didn't, but our departure from President Obasanjo was because we insisted that he should at least read the Constitution, just read it, and he never agreed. And that was why in 2002, when we were presented with somebody who agreed to read the Constitution, he said he was going to run on the platform of APP. We said we will move as progressives, and that's how 2002 I decamped on the floor of the House to join APP in order to propagate this Buhari vision. Even the President Buhari himself, at the time, still a military man, we kept insisting this is what the issues are, constitutionally. Because I speak about this constitution because the next question says, what is it I want to restructure? I'm not planning to restructure anywhere in the world. The borders of Nigeria are known and they are defined. They are accepted internationally. I'm a student of international law. My PhD thesis is on the efficacy of the ECOWAS pattern and what it can do. That's what I wrote on. So it is not new law to be talking about restructuring. Obviously can't be talking about the landmass. We're not about to annex Benin Republic. That's not the issue. The issue is governance. Restructuring is not about land space, it's governance. So when people talk about restructuring, how do you restructure a country that agrees that 469 people can go into a place and make a mistake in a law and come back next week and say they have changed it again? I said, could you change it the next week? The law hasn't even started implemented. We need, how do you restructure the 469? Is it a question of land mass or the resources? What causes this type of thing? This one. What causes it? I've asked people repeatedly since 1999, this Nigerian constitution is a restructured constitution. Since 1914, we had, from 1914 to 1960, we had 16 Oyibo men who ruled the country. From Lugard through to Thomas Thompson, to Littleton, Clifford, Richards, everybody, up till Thomas as we vacated. So everything is known. From then till now, we've had another 16 leaders, half of them military. So what is it that you want to restructure? Do you want to restructure the landmass or how it is governed? I've asked, Is there something a state does with its citizen other than service and tax? That's how citizen and state relate. And so you need to, that's why they say political science is the head of all sciences. You have to first understand political science, because it's the political scientist that will give you the space to operate as an engineer or journalist. It is the mindset of the political class that determines the rest. So political science, they argue that it is the king of sciences. Number one, is there anything you would like to do in Nigeria that the law says you cannot do? Each one thing. There's none. If you want to build a refinery at the border of Karana Moda, there's a process, you just apply. The only thing you'll be asking is, it's not my brother that is there, he will not agree to give me the license. That now is not what we're speaking. Remember, we were 3 regions. By 1966, war was fought over this matter. It was because there was an extraction of the Western territory in they created Midwest. This only state created by civilians was the Midwest. That was restructuring, because they felt that the structure at the time. So when people talk about returning to the regions, they need to visit the Hansards of the parliament at the time to see that the people who were politicians at the time said this was not working. So when the military took over, they said, okay, the things that caused the war, the things that we were angry with, we didn't want a situation where Ironsi unified the country into one unitary decree and tried to rule from Lagos. That it is better that everybody creates states. They are no longer in ethnic, because the core states were worried that the Igbo states were dominating them. The Middle Belt states were worried that so the war was raging in the Middle Belt, raging in this place, raging in any part of the world. Nigeria had to agree to create these states, to unbundle the structure. They unbundled the structure as a way to stop a civil war again. That's, in fact, to a large extent, they have succeeded. So from then till now, we've not had at least a civil war. There's 50 years down the line. So something must be right with the new structure. But they then understood that what was the anger among many people was that we had a regional system where we were running a parliamentary system. In a parliamentary system where only one man running in one local government of Tafawa Balewa in present-day Bauchi, small place, he won one seat there and arrived Lagos. And the Northern People's Union and MPC agreed. The man that people knew in Nigeria then was a Southern Sukut. That's the person they thought was the big man who was coming to rule Nigeria. That's what they thought. They said, no, we are going to send the man didn't contest for parliament. In parliament, there's one young boy, he should come and become president. You didn't know who Tafawa was. So when the military wanted to restore, they said, no. If you have a multi-ethnic, multi-religious, multi-this, you can no longer run a situation where you can elect one small boy from Imo State. Imo State people he will convince Imo people and they will give him 2 votes. And with that 2 votes, he will arrive at that place and he will just simply become our leader. Who know him? Akintola will be sitting somewhere. Awolowo will be sitting somewhere. And there will be a small boy who just arrived tomorrow and he will become our president. How does that happen? It's okay, let us solve this problem. Let us start with a situation where we can elect so that everybody in Nigeria must cast a vote for whoever is going to be the president. That's how this presidential system came about. Again, go and read the Hansard of the 1977 Constituent Assembly, where Akonde, this present, these were members. They read, Rotimi, Williams, everybody, anybody, each our legal luminaries, all the people who we used to hear about in school, they were present. It's one big blue book like this. We read it in school. If you go through and hear what they were debating, you ask yourself, what is restructuring? That's why they arrived at the unique constitution we practice now. that there is nobody who can be president of Nigeria. If you like, win all the majority of the votes, if you don't get to third to third of the country. Other people must agree, whether you like it or not. There's no president. And when people talk about anybody winning the presidency without the support, I say it's not possible. The constitution of the country is clear. If you like, stay in your village, win 10 million. If our village people don't hear about you, they will not. It's not allowed. This is the only constitution that is like that in the world. Any other constitution? What do you want to structure? Is there any limitation to what a state governor can do? Nigeria's governors are the most independent governors in the world. There is no other place where governors, in fact, there is no, if anybody knows the income that they generate in their state that they transfer to Abuja, they should say so. Nobody has ever compelled any state to generate one income and send to him. All of that is left to the state. It is up to the states to try and generate as much as they can. Would you like to say, okay, everybody generate and send to us? Which was what the problem was before. Because when Ojukwu refused to send money that was why when the Civil War started, it didn't start as a civil war. It started as a belligerence. I'm not know who are students of history. It started as belligerence. What is belligerence? Refusal is the English word for refusal. He refused to send the money that was from the palm oil sales in 1967, remit it to federal government account. So federal government had to come for a police action. It was an enforcement action that led to the Civil War because now people were now angry. The East was now angry. So when people keep saying, let's revert back to the thing that killed us, and I say, please, it's good to know book, but read it. Read it, just read. So that would then answer the question of whether I will agree to a consensus plan. I have already told you that it's not possible to win an election without the consent of everybody. So why will I be saying that I can only win if I'm the most powerful? It's not true. You can only win by a consensus. So whatever consensus my party agrees to, if they choose me, good for them and for Nigeria. If they don't choose me, whoever they choose, we just decide that, look, this is what we have to offer. That's my understanding of what we're doing. So, and that dovetails into the question of whether it is legal or ethical to withdraw ahead of an exercise. Yes. In every situation, you make provisions. The Supreme Court has said repeatedly that political parties are not parastatals of government. They are not. The way you regard Boys Brigade, Guest Guide, Rotary, they are associations, voluntary associations. The only thing Supreme Court has heard repeatedly from the Onoha Kafo case in 1983, just go through the history of Supreme Court cases. They have been consistent that the party is supreme in these decisions of internal. The only condition is that the parties must obey their guidelines and regulations. So that is the only limitation I see. If you come to our association of not good people, let's say we have an association of not good people, which most people believe politicians are not good people. So let's not call it ADC or DDC. Just know there's an association of not good people. And the first condition you are given there is that, Oga, if you are joining us, if we ask you to marry 3 wives and you don't like wives, you will leave. You say, hi. But I'm a good man, I don't like girls. They say this association is for those who like girls. It's up to you then to withdraw or not to withdraw. That's what guidelines mean. Then you come to an association and they say, for you to contest on our platform, before we agree that we and you can work together, you need to give us the confidence that, look, if we don't like you to do this, we would not want you to take us to court. Can you give us that before we can start? You say, I can't do that. It's okay, Oga, can you check the other party? They don't have this type of provision. Check their own, whether you like it. That's exactly the way I look at it. It may not necessarily be a moral or ethical code. It actually is about what it is that you believe you want to do. Most political parties have been given that legacy to run like that. If their constitution says they cannot do that, that's fine. But right now, people argue about what is constitutional. A political party says he wants to sell forms to women for free. People like my good friends who don't tolerate nonsense can go to court and say this is discrimination under Section 42 of that Constitution. How can you discriminate against us on the basis of my sex? You want me to do sex change before I can do this? We're selling this to disabled people. So those who wear glasses, where do you classify them? So, you know, if you look at law and its application, you may get into all this. Listen, the first things, if you're a rule-based society, understand that particular political parties make their own rules, and if this is what they have said they want to do, you may be guided as to how to engage it. The biggest question I see here is an economic plan. Because if I want to unfold an economic plan today, you will not live here. Because all economies are social-based. You have to know the sociological content of an area to be able to decide what you want to sell to them and what they can produce. There's no point trying to continue the way we are and expect that we will survive. I mean, it's true, just hearing that dollar will be shared at just knowing that there is convention coming. In the past 2 weeks, dollar has jumped by 12%. We are now at 607. Because every Tom, Dick, Harry, who has access to any allocation, whether local government allocation, contract payment, is changing it to dollar to head up to the convention, because we thought there would be 7,800. So all the big men with the big money bought up all the dollars. In fact, everywhere, every malam you see is looking for dollar to sell. So everybody is there. Then you also have the mix factor. Because if you explain to poor people that they are the ones causing this, they will say no. They will not understand. Just this politicians' meeting has caused this jump in dollar. Who will pay? It will cause an inflation in the market. Who will pay? The poor person. But they don't understand it like that. So, if you try to do a different system, if I tell you those systems now, it will change the color of what we have come here to discuss. Because everybody will simply jump on that wagon and then we'll start criticizing or saying an economic plan is this. But let me tell you, when I was running for governor in 2003, in Imo State, I published a pamphlet. Every economic data, you can just extrapolate it and expand it. It's remained the same. You produce, or at least don't produce, and you don't, it has no relativity to your economy. The only force for your production is determined by outside forces. When I say Nigeria is an oil occurring country instead of an oil producing country, there's a difference, you know, because if somebody, I'm not sure whether, or God knows whether there's oil here. Nobody in Nigeria knows until people will come and say, there's oil here. You ask him, how many? You say, don't worry, I'm coming. He will check. He tell you how many. You ask him, what are we going to do with it? He said, don't worry, bye. He said, okay. Then, have you done? He says, we have, where are we? He said, no, don't worry, I have people who will buy it. Okay. How are we going to, I have sheep, don't worry. Okay, have they bought it? Yeah, how much? He said, don't worry, there's a new price coming. In fact, it's increasing. He said, hey, it's increasing. He said, okay, has it increased? How many did you sell? He said, we took 1 million barrels yesterday. He said, hey, how many dollars? You tell him, okay, where is the money? It's in the Bank of International Settlements in Brussels. So I'm a rich man now. I'm a rich man. That's the condition Nigeria actually is in. And if you want the money, Oyibo will ask you, what do you want? Some limousines and so on. They will open the one we call letter of credit. They write somebody that if they give you, they pay the man. The money is not coming here. You just keep going. You write rice. Thailand, give them 2 bags. They write. We've been living like that since forever. So I'm sure you know this. It's not like I'm joking. I mean, I'm not making this up. Let's not make it seem like somebody's criticizing another person. We know that that's what we're doing. So, until a nation re-engages this paradigm, it's going to be difficult to say. Now, if I start telling you what to do, I think we've done part of it, because people ask, what are the failures of the Buhari administration and what will you do? And I say, the biggest challenge, not a failure, of the Buhari administration is getting the things it wants done work. And I understand when the president says, well, he's not as strong as he used to be. We are all human beings, so we age. I think when he first came to power, he said he wished he had come at a younger age. Nigerians denied him the opportunity to come at a younger age. In fact, his interviews with channels at the beginning of this year, he said he has this age. He now understands that it's not good to burden an aged person with this thing, because the challenges are different. And I will explain to you, for instance, why. The job of coordinating the National Economic Council is actually a statutory responsibility of the Office of the Vice President. And that is why in the years that Obasanjo ruled, his vice president took the opportunity to sell off the country. You can understand that. And people who are beneficiaries of those largesse now can wait at the delegate election and receive some. Because you are selling your country, you can receive dividend later. What's going on in Nigeria is a scam. But it's okay. I mean, Nigerians enjoy it because that's what they want. Yes, I mean, newspapers will keep hyping. We had the people who became rich men and how they are. And they're enjoying the loot because they think this is their dividend. And we go on like that. But that is the position. So, if you have a situation where the National Economic Council is unable to get the states to think in a direction of uniformity, it will be a problem. So you can go ahead and sign the Executive Order 005 and Executive Order 009. Those are 2 key directions of this government which have not been implemented. Even when I joined the Federal Executive Council, I kept hammering that this is at the heart of our government. So if you go and check out Executive Order number 5, you come to the realization that that enforcement of local consumption, enforcement of local manufacturing, enforcement, which Nigeria has the capability of doing, is at the root of how you can take out children from the streets, return them to factories, take over the ungoverned spaces. Because if you read the document from the National Security Advisor on Nigeria's security architecture and the policies, you will see you are correct in your analysis that there is an interplay of economic forces versus security forces, because there are nearly 27 agencies recommended to work in the security space. Some of them are key, like National Orientation Agency, Ministry of Information, getting people to talk differently, speak differently, work differently, order differently. People do not know how that document was developed. But in Nigeria's parlance, we have centered around only the 3 arms of army and so on and so forth, just continuously fighting insecurity. The rest are not participants. Again, you will need to use some measure to draw everybody. It's a whole, to have an orderly society is a whole of society approach. It can be done in different, tranches. So I think that to understand our economic plan, you will need to understand our social plan, how we want an inclusive society. First things first, it is very difficult to go against Western economies, because we are not actually going against Western economies. They are already established economies. For us in Africa, And if you've attended any of the classes in Western world, they teach their children that Africa and the rest of us are resource source economies. We are not their competitors. We are not in a position to compete. Even we are not in a position to compete with China, because when on my tour around the country, if you enter the bushes in Jalingo and Taraba, you will find Chinese people who they don't even have passports. Sometimes you don't know how they come in. The immigration people don't have any clue what they are here for. So they dig up things that they know. Nigerians have no clue what it is. Something if they tell you it's gold, you wouldn't know whether it's gold. If they tell you anything, and they go through the course, half of them are not trained to even know what it is, or if they detect that something is, you dash them on. That's the way the Nigerian system. I'm not educating you. I'm actually discussing with you about something you know now. This is why you're looking at me as if it's a lecture. It's not a lecture. This is something you know. I'm not telling you anything new because you report them. So we know that this is how this place is. So to constantly not then do something different is what irks me. I think we should then have a different way of working. And then I will take the question of politics being so monetized. I agree with you that we have a monetized polity. But I can assure you that we had a Buhari elected who didn't have any money, because a few people, some of us have been with him maybe for 20 years. Some people just discovered him. Some people changed their minds. So some, Nigerians came to different levels of realization. But at the time we voted him, we realized that there was a problem that needed fixing and order. And that is what I did in my opening statement to you, that I'm only presenting myself for you to choose. I'm not saying I can buy you. In the Ministry of Education, we are not about to award contract to teachers. We are, with nearly 2.2 million registered teachers, we don't have enough money to give them, talk about or they want to take. So it's not, I can't be sponsored by the oil industry. So the only people who can sponsor me are Nigerians. And this is why when they first said the form will be sold, we opened a platform where we collected Abbas will, if you want. It's just that some people there, I know of a particular case, like I keep going back, my younger brother's friend, his wife gave more money than the husband. And she kept insisting that I hope people are not going to make this public. So I said, okay, otherwise I can publish it. There are 3,100 and what? 3,180 people. He has the entire names of all the people who made those contributions. And the good thing is that we said the cap is 500,000. You can't give more than 500,000. But the least you can give is 500 naira. And we got this money, and they went ahead and purchased this one. So I know that if Nigerians are willing, and once my party selects me, in selecting me, APC will be speaking to 90% of the demographics of Nigeria. They will be speaking to the 70% who are below 50, who believe that if it is possible to elect somebody who is 55, then there is hope for them. If you keep investing in what people may people may describe as those whose use-by date, if you follow NAFDAC recommendations, the use-by date of many people, shelf life is even, it may not have expired, but not necessarily expire, but when the drug is most efficacious, some drugs are efficacious at the efficacy of a product must be taken into. So right now, Nigerians appreciate that this is probably where they can get the most efficacious drug, and this is what I'm providing. I'm providing the most potent, deliverable for Nigerians. Not necessarily. So I know that is what I'm offering, and that's what APC will be offering Nigerians if they take me as their candidate. They will be speaking to others who believe that now they have gotten somebody who will go and do this work for them. Many. almost all my supporters are above my age. All have members of the House of Reps from 1992 who endorsed me even before they could contribute money. Some of them went to pay in 1,000 naira. 1,000. A member of 1992 said in Nasarawa sent me 150 yams to sell, yams from his farm in Nasarawa here. And people are invested in thinking that actually there may be a new Nigeria, a regeneration. It's not new, it's to regenerate what it is that we have. But you have to have a different mindset to be able to generate something new. I mean, check out your garden. Even roots that are dead, there are things you do to them and they wake up. That's what Nigeria needs to be done. You need to wake it up. And so, it's not about whether it's been monetized or not monetized. It's about Nigerians committing to a future where they want to go. There are two other things about the Southeast meeting yesterday and why we couldn't arrive at a consensus. The Southeast does not want to arrive at a consensus. The Southeast wants to work with Nigeria. We are not presenting any. In fact, we are very disappointed. We thought that at least 10 to 20 people from the Southeast will buy this form so that we can make the case. If you're making a case now, you can't make it with one good wave. Let all of us come out, men, women, and say, yes, we believe in Nigeria. We believe that it is our turn. We believe, all of that believe. Come and put it on ground. That's what we thought. But we only have seven aspirants, and that's very small. But I'm sure that out of these 7, we have those in their 70s, we have those in their 60s, we have those in their 50s. We have every type you need. If you want those who went to school properly, this is my irregular PhD, you can use it. If the ones who know book are there. The ones that you can cop at the men are there. Any type you need. So why would we limit Nigerians to a choice? Nigerians must have the full breadth of Igbo diversity. Women, in fact, those from anyone. In fact, Chief Moloku, who was a former minister in I think it was General Abacha's regime, who was Minister of Information, whose mother was the head of Onitsha women in the House of Assembly in 1958. He is a contestant. Well, if you, any type you need, Igbo people have it. So what we said yesterday is that if you want the aging and aged, we have. If you want vibrant, any type, we're available. So it's up to Nigeria to choose, and then we agreed that even if the person that you choose, his leg is not very well, because I think Roger slims on one leg. No, I'm not saying anyone you choose. If it's woman you choose, we are going to back her. That's what we said yesterday. Please understand, we don't. The idea that Igbo people want to limit Nigeria to this is our country. Why would we say Nigeria? Please, we are with you 169, 1,000,000%. Just take one. There are 7 of us here. Just all of us. Come out. Choose one. Going. Thank you very much.